And I think because I was so uncomfortable with it is how I know it was genuinely from the Lord. We're to go out and be influencers for Christ and ambassadors for Him. And it stuck with me like, I'm salty. A little bit of a good thing makes the biggest difference. I'm like, yes, that's it. That's salty right there.
The one.
Hey y'all, welcome to the Salty Podcast. I'm Devin, and today for the first episode ever, I have my husband Hunter here with me.
Hello, everyone.
I'm so excited. This is actually wild that we're sitting here filming this.
I know when you just said the intro, like on camera, I was like, oh, we're doing it. Well, here we are.
I know, like months in the making.
Literally.
Just praying about it, talking about it, and here we are. First episode.
We made it.
So yeah, let's get into kind of how it came about. And especially, I feel like a lot of people thought it was going to be a couples podcast, but it's Salty with Devin. So
You heard it here first. Hot take. So why is it not a couples podcast? What is going to be your main theme, I guess? Not theme, but your mission for the podcast?
I just want it to be a place where people can come listen and hear testimonies. Everybody has different kind of testimonies. They're from different walks of life. And I just feel like it's really touching to hear other people's stories. And especially as Christians in this day and age, just to be inspired and encouraged by other people's stories. So that's kind of what my goal is, or what I felt like the Lord told me that this is going to be.
Yeah.
It's just a place where people will be able to share how they came to know Christ and the walk of following Him it's like, and all of that.
You love to hear that. I think that's going to be fun because I like hearing people's stories,
Yeah, me too.
It's going to be cool. Is it going to be mostly female guests, or are you going to have male guests too?
I feel like it'll be mostly female. Whenever I felt this call for this, especially because I thought for the longest time we would have a couples podcast. Mm-hmm. So a few months ago, you were the first one who kind of put it in my head that you should do your own podcast. And I'm like, absolutely not. I'm not doing my own podcast. Yeah. It is going to be us if we ever do a podcast. And then you planted that seed, and after that seed was planted, it was so loud. The Lord just speaking to me, and He's like, no, this is what you're going to do. And I think because I was so uncomfortable with it is how I know it was genuinely from the Lord. And now I can't not follow what He says to do,
You got to get comfortable in the uncomfortable, don't you?
That's right. Yeah. So going back to whether it's going to be females, I do feel like since it's going to be me a lot, I just want to have just Christian women on here sharing their testimonies. I don't know. We're just going to go with what God wants, here you are on here with me. But I do feel like if it's not me on here, you're going to be on here with me. And I feel like we can just talk about life, talk about what God's doing in our life and all that. Whoever we feel led to have on here, we'll have on here,
Yeah.
If it's a couple or not,
So it's going to be like a life podcast.
Yes.
Not really just kind of talking.
Yeah.
So if you follow us on or if you're a subscriber, or if you just watch our YouTube videos, we do a lot of sit down style videos. So it's going to be similar, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Similar to those.
Yeah.
Less of necessarily what's going on in our life, even though we'll touch on it.
Yeah.
But it's going to be more just about life and what you learn as you're walking through life from each individual guest, own perspective.
Right. But faith-based oriented, I just want it all about Him. And I feel like with our other platforms, we talk about God whenever we feel led, but this is, I don't know, I just feel like this is what He said this is for me, not me, but Him.
Right.
And so I'm excited. I'm excited to see how He's going to use this. And I think we talked about earlier, even if it's just for one person to come to know Him and just be inspired and encouraged on that.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Here you are. You're doing the thing.
Yeah.
So how often do you think you're going to post? And are you going to do seasons or no? By the way, some of this stuff, I'm genuinely asking her.
No, I know. I mean, this is a conversation.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Okay, posting every week.
Okay.
But seasons, I don't know. I did see somebody say they got asked that question, and they're like, honestly, it's just when you feel that burnout coming, and you're like, okay, end of season. You know?
Right.
So I feel like we'll go with that kind of flow. I mean, maybe we'll talk about it more and be like, okay, maybe we should do this or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm just excited for, like, say something happens that week. I'm like, let's just go film an episode. Let's go talk about what happened, what God did. Because there was a lot of times whenever God moves in my life, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
You want to talk about it?
I want to talk about it. And then I do have, we have the platforms to talk about it, but I don't know. I'm just excited about this.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you why you started it and where did you get the name and why did you name it Salty?
This name has been a name in the making for a year, I feel like.
Longer than that?
Yeah, there was just a moment where it was like almost a part of my testimony and identity, like in the past few years. And so whenever I was going through a period of just kind of figuring out my identity and who I was in Christ, the verse in Matthew, you are the salt of the earth. And there's also a verse in Matthew, like next to it, about how you are the light of the earth, light of the world. I don't know. It stuck with me. I'm like, salty. We're salty. Like, we're called to be salty. We do have purpose here. We're to go out and be influencers, and not by the means of the world, like how the world defines influencers, but influencers for Christ and ambassadors for him. And in that, it stuck with me. Like, I'm salty. And because, the saying salty, I feel like a lot of people are going to, before they listen in, they're going to see the name and they're like, what? Like sassy or
right.
being mean
Which
or whatever.
people think you're not.
Huh?
People think you are not like salty, sassy, whatever. So it's kind of funny that it's,
Yeah. So it's the complete opposite. It's just salty. We're called to be salty. And that's why I feel like on here and hearing people's testimonies and stuff, like, we all have a purpose and we all have different purposes. What God has for me is not going to be what he has for somebody else or the next person. It just is encouraging knowing we can all have different purposes, but we're still all called to be salty. And our lovely producer actually came up with this, and I'm like, I am sticking with that.
Oh, yeah.
Saying.
I was going to say we could say it at the end, but you should say it.
It fits with the name and why I picked it out, but I didn't really know how to explain it. And he was like, a little bit of a good thing makes the biggest difference. I'm like, yes, that's it. That's salty right there.
The one.
I mean, because think when you're seasoning soup or whatever, just a little sprinkle here and there of salt. But
salt, garlic.
And also, whenever, like, wounds, for example, salt helps heal wounds. And this world is full of wounded people. If one person can be a little salty spiritually, we can help heal the wounded people. I mean, because I don't know about you, but this...
Are you preaching right now?
It's a broken world, and there's so many lost people.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of the lost people, it's because, I mean, you've been hurt and wounded by the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the name. Stuck.
Yeah.
We actually had something else in the works, and I was like, love the name Salty. And then the podcast, you mentioned it to me. And then we were in church one day, and on the screen, it was like our, what do you call it? Like how we do a series.
Yeah.
And what did it say? Because remember, I shared it with you, and I whispered in your ear, and I was like, I'm going to do the podcast, and I'm going to call it Salty. So wild.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, about the salty thing.
Yeah.
How you're going to have, like, the different guests, and it's going to be mostly testimonial.
Yeah.
Like, you can learn, anybody and everybody can learn something from anybody and everybody. You know, like, if you, like, open your ears and open your heart and open your mind to something, it doesn't matter who it is, you can learn something from somebody to make yourself a better person. Not only, to make yourself a better person, like, in Christ, and just a better person.
For sure. I'm excited to learn from people.
Yeah.
And hear their stories.
For sure. Salty. Where's the salt at? We didn't bring any salt in here.
I know. I kind of wanted, like, the intro. I was like, would this be silly if we had sprinkled salt noise?
Okay. But the only other thing I think I was going to ask you is like, what are you looking to get out of it, to get out of the podcast? And what do you hope that the listeners will get out of it?
I feel like for me, it's just fulfilling a purpose, you know, knowing I'm being obedient to what he wanted me to do. And I'm praying that I stay in his will. And that's like, before this started, I'm like, just say a prayer. Because I don't want anything to be flesh-based or just my feelings, or I don't want to get off of his track, right? So I just am excited to feel that fulfillment, knowing I'm being obedient in his purpose for me. The other question you asked was,
What do you hope like the listeners will get out of it?
oh, just same thing, to be encouraged and inspired by other people's stories and to learn from that. And ultimately, the biggest thing of all is just say because we have so many followers from all different walks of life, different religions, different backgrounds. Just we have followers that don't even follow Jesus, you know, and I always want to be so welcoming to that, and I never want to like force it down anybody.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm excited for the podcast, because it's going to be, people are going to expect to hear more about God. So I feel like if they're coming to listen, they're going to hear that and know what they're getting into. And so it's not going to feel like forceful or anything.
Yeah.
But even say somebody's curious about why do they follow Jesus? Who is Jesus? Why is God their identity, you know? And so I'm just eager and excited and hopeful that there's going to be more saved people just by the Salty Podcast.
There you go.
Let me ask you, is it...
Well, you darn sure look good today, by the way.
Thanks, honey. How do you feel? Because we were going to do one together. And you're the one who like encouraged it to be just me.
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel about me doing a podcast?
I'm happy for you. Proud of you. I'm like a little jealous.
Yeah, because you love podcasts.
I love podcasts. Like, I love them.
Yeah.
It's just more natural to me to like talk to people like that I know, you know, because like I'm naturally an introverted person. So like talking to people in public is hard, but I feel like I can talk to those people through this mic.
Yeah.
You know?
No, you're so good at it, and I know you enjoy it.
Yeah.
But that's why you're going to be on here a lot with me.
But about you though, like I'm proud of you. Like I'm happy for you. And I think it's going to be good for you. I think it's going to be like better for you than you realize it is. Like, and that's why I ask you like what you were looking to get out of it, because I think that, no, I'm not saying you think that you're going to be like the hostess with the mostest of the Salty Pod, but
I'm actually nervous about that, to be honest.
no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is I think people are going to come on here and they're going to be like inspiring you just as much as they are like the listeners.
For sure.
You know, like from the outside looking in, it's like you're filling the cup of all these people. But it's like, I think that the podcast is really going to be filling your cup more than you know.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm excited for.
Yeah. Jesus filling that cup.
You're right. Well, yeah, but it's you know.
No, I know.
It's
Yeah.
through Jesus, you know,
Yeah.
because it's the testimonies.
I
and
understand, yeah.
It's not the person sitting in the other chair.
Yeah. No, 100%. I'm so excited about that. And I think that's why I'm so nervous, because this is so, like I said earlier, uncomfortable for me to, like, I'm like, can you always be on it with me? You know?
It's so funny that like before we started this, you were like, I'm so nervous. And I'm just like, I'm chilling. But like we go to Walmart and I'm like, don't look at me, don't look at me, don't look at me. And you're just like bippity boppity boo and down the aisle, you know?
It's so easy for me to talk to
Funny
people
how
face to
it's
face.
like backwards like this though.
But I'm so excited. What are you excited about for this podcast? Like, are you going to be one of my listeners?
Yes, I'm gonna be a listener. The thing about podcasting me is like it's so hard. It's so hard to find the time, because like if I'm listening to a podcast, like I actually want to listen to it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a put a podcast on in the background kind of guy. Like it's captivating my like forethought.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to find the time to like listen to podcasts like that. Like, so when I'm driving or something, that's like the main time. So I'm just going to have to move this one to the top of the list that I listen to, you know?
Yeah.
I really don't listen to that many podcasts, so honestly, because of that. It's like, well, I can't do it here and I can't do it here and I can't do it here. I can only do it like when I'm in the car by myself. And that's not like that often.
Yeah.
But I'll make a point to listen to yours, honey.
Well, you're going to be on it a lot. It's,
Yeah.
I think we said it's my podcast with Devin because whenever I do want it to be like have a lot of women on here and telling their stories. So in that sense, I feel like it's just going to be more organic to be me and that person versus me, Hunter, and that person.
Right.
It's just going to be comfortable for them. But if it's just we're filming an episode and we can talk about what God's doing in our life and our marriage and all that fun stuff. So
I love it.
I'm so excited.
I know.
Well,
It's going to be a grot Tim.
yeah, this is a great first episode, I guess.
This is just the intro, honey. We're just breaking the ice.
I know.
Here. So what should people expect in the second episode? Should we lead to that or?
Yeah, we definitely can talk about that. I think the next episode is going to be my testimony. So I feel like I get that asked a lot, just how my upbringing, knowing God and all those things, all the juice. I'm going to be a very open book on here about my testimony. So we're supposed to share it in hopes to help somebody else. So tune in next Monday to hear my testimony video. And thank y'all for being here. Thank you for listening. And I am so excited for the new Salty podcast. And yeah, thank you, Hunter, for being here with me.
I'm honored. Anytime, honey.
All right. I hope y'all have a great day. Bye.
Bye.